Hello everyone. Today we're going to start teaching CSS. So if this is your first time in the channel, my name is Rejoice Kosia Nairobi, and I will be teaching you CSS from the beginning. So first and foremost, before I share my screen, I would like to ask you, what is CSS? What do you understand by the word CSS? What do you understand by the word CSS? Okay, since no one has anything to say, and I'll just describe. CSS is a language that is being used as an HTML for an HTML document. It's used to describe how an HTML document should be displayed. So CSS, also known as Cascading Style and Cascading Style Sheets. So I'll be talking about how we can use CSS and when can we use CSS. So now, first and foremost, we would want to try out different templates for CSS. We'll look at the introduction, how and when we can write CSS, and I'll also let you know that there's what they call internal CSS and external CSS. So internal CSS is a CSS that you make inline and inside the HTML page, while external CSS is something that you would create again. So I will share my screen with you so that you can see what I'm talking about. 1 minute. Share. Mhm. So let's go further and discuss CSS. So where are we going to write our internal CSS? We're going to come under the head section and put the word style. So that is how we write internal CSS. But if we want to write like external CSS, 1 minute. Mhm. Mhm. Select folder. I also wanted to like download the lifesaver, but I haven't had the time to do that. So maybe we can actually do it here in the class. So file and folder. I don't know why this is not working, but let's go back. Hello guys, please can you write your name on the chat? Who is watching us live? Please write your name so I know who is actually watching us live. I'll reshare the screen again. Studio code. Okay, so now we're going to create an external CSS file. So I'm going to put day one. It's not .css. Rename. So this is our CSS file. So this is what we call the external CSS file. And to do the external CSS file, it has to be outside the page. But to do the internal CSS file, it has to be inside the page on the header column over here. So for today, we are going to start with internal CSS. Maybe in the next class, I'm going to teach you how to write like external CSS. Literally, they are both the same thing, but just that one has to be inside the page and the other has to be like outside the page. So I already told you what CSS means, cascading style sheets. So the next thing that we're going to do is that how can we style something? How and when can we use CSS, and when do we style with CSS, right? So now imagine that we want to change the background color of an image or of the page. So we can just go there and create like under the body. We'll just come under the C. Sorry, I was typing here. Put the word body here. Yeah. So let's change this. Just put the word background. Back. Ctrl Z. Ctrl Z. Yeah. Yes. So what should we color the background color of our page? Should we make it blue? Yeah. So we use this color for the background color of our page. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to go to and open our page so that I can actually share the screen with you. So 1 minute while I do that. K.R.A code. Yeah, over here. So guys, remember that before this page was totally white, and now because we use the background color to be blue, we've actually changed the background color of the page to be blue. So that is how background color work when working with cascading style sheet. Another thing again that we can actually change is that we can change how we write our text using text align, or we can also change the color of our text. Maybe we don't like the way our text is looking white, we can decide to change it to black. So first and foremost, we'll go to use paragraph, but for every paragraph, remember that we have different paragraphs in our website already. So what we can do is we are going to use different ways of tagging, how you can put like tagging and HTML. Like you can either use ID tag, or you can use which word should I use? You can use class. So you can either use ID tag or you can actually use class. So I'll be going to directly to how to use the ID tag so that when we use it in styling of our internal CSS, we actually know what is actually going on. So tagging by ID, I'm going to show you how you can tag by ID. One of them you use the dots, the other one you use the style. But before we do that, let's kind of edit our H1, that is John, and change the color to like white. No, should we change it to white or should we change it to purple? Guys, please make a suggestion on the chat so that we can actually talk from there. I feel like I'm talking to myself alone. Please make a suggestion, guys. Oh, sorry, I think I shared the wrong screen. Where's my Visual Studio screen? Yep. Yep. Guys, please make a suggestion. What should we color our H1? What should we color our H1, guys? I'm waiting. Jessica says white. Oh, Jessica, nice to meet you. It's good to have you in class. So remember that from the first day when we did HTML, our H1, one of the H1 that we actually used was John. We use John for H1, H2, H3, and the rest. So we are going to actually change the color to white. So before we do that, I'm going to change the color of all the text in the HTML in the website. Currently, let me check what the color is. The color is black. So I'm going to change all the color to pink. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to use the P tag to actually change that. So I'll come over here and put P. What's happening? Come here and then I'll put color and I'll make everything pink. Let me just say pink. Yeah, just now use this pink. Yeah. So I'll come back here and share the screen with you so you can actually see what I'm saying. So Jessica, where are you chatting from? Where are you chatting from? Canada, Nigeria, Brazil? Let me know. So you can see that wherever we use like the paragraph, we see that we've changed the text color to pink. You can see. And then I'll go back again. I'll stop sharing and share it with you. Because hi, Breda. Nice to meet you. Nice to have you here again. So I'll share this part of the screen again. And so I can go back again. What's happening? Huh. Okay, so I'll go back again and change the H1 of the text. And I change it to white because Jessica said we should name it white. So color white over here. So I'll stop and share this part of the screen so you can actually see. Share. So Jessica, you can see that when we scroll, the H1, which is John, is actually color white now. So this is how you use color whenever you're making use of colors for in CSS to decorate the page. Remember, CSS has to do with the beautification of a page, the styling of a page. So you can decide to make your page as colorful as you want using CSS. So this is how to set the color and like the background color of the page. So another thing again that we can do is that we can actually align our text. So we can definitely use text align to actually align our text to the center, to the right, to the left, or to the center, left, right, or any of those ways. So I'm going to stop sharing and explain to you what I'm talking about here. So 1 minute, stop sharing. Share Visual Studio Code. Share. So over here, we want to align the text in the paragraph. So we'll just put the word text align. So somebody should please give me a scenario where you want the text to be: center, middle, that's the center, or the left or to the right. Can someone please write on the chat? I just want to use opinion from everybody. How you want our, sorry, this is text emphasis, not text align. I made a mistake. So we are going to align our text. So someone should please tell us, do you want it justified? Do you want it left? Do you want it right? Or do you want it in the center? Write on the chat, please, so that I can know that you guys are following me. Justified, center, left, or right? Where should we align our paragraph text to? Jessica, Brenda, and then the last person, I don't know. Where do you want us to align the text to? Please, guys, let's make the class very interactive. So I'm going to make sure that the text is at the left side. So now I've aligned the text from the paragraph to the left side of the page. So what I'm going to do now is I'll stop sharing and share the screen again. Entire window. 1 minute. So now I'll share the part. So if we roll this, we can see here that our text has been aligned to the left side of the screen. So I'm going to also use the text align again, and I'm going to try to put the text in the center so you can see that the text is also still going to shift. And so this is what we use text align to put the position of where we want the text to be: center, left side, and the rest. I'll just do this over here. Window this. Text align for our paragraph to be in the center. So we are going to try again. Stop sharing, share the other side of the screen so you can see over here. So when we scroll this again, we can see that now our text has been moved from the left side to the middle side of the screen. So that is how and when we can actually use text align in writing CSS. This is how you can actually use text align whenever we write CSS. So another thing again I want to talk about is selector. So CSS selector. So guys, what do you understand by the word CSS selector? If you have any question, please write on the chat. If you understand what I'm trying to talk about, please write on the chat what you understand by CSS selector. Please write so that we can actually go further. What do you understand by CSS selector? Okay, not say that there. No. Okay, so selectors are like HTML's elements that is based on their name. And I already gave you example using like the body. So we can actually say the paragraph that we used before are like the selectors that we can use. It can be paragraph, it can be heading, it can be anything. So another thing again is that when I spoke about how you can call a CSS selector by class, or you can call a CSS selector by ID. So how do you call a CSS selector by ID? The first thing that you have to do is to use the word hashtag. If you know the hashtag, I'm going to put it in the chat so that you can actually see what I'm talking about. Use the hashtag. That is how you can actually use the whenever you're calling a CSS by ID, you have to use the hashtag. I'm going to stop sharing and then I'm going to show you an example of what I'm saying on the chat so that you can actually see what I'm talking about. So we are going to go to the first paragraph here. And the first thing that we're going to do is that we're going to try to call the CSS by ID. And so guys, can you please give me an example of a name that I should name the, can you give me an example of a name I should name the paragraph? Just any name. Okay, I'm going to name the paragraph Jessica. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to name the paragraph Jessica. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to do the ID stuff and I'm going to say Jessica. I don't know if I got the name correctly. So now I've called this by ID, and then I'm just going to put the hashtag here, hashtag Jessica. I hope I'm getting the spelling correctly. Yeah, hashtag Jessica. So only the first paragraph is going to work for this. Hello world, we are writing our first code, blah, 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 and end in July 2024. So only the first paragraph is going to have this color and have the text aligned to the center. To say I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to share the other side of the screen so you can understand what I am saying. So I shared this part of the screen. I will reload, and you can see that the screen only the first part was actually affected. That's to say that there are so many paragraphs in this website, but I only called the first paragraph because I use the word hashtag. So when do we use the word hashtag? Because we can actually call a CSS folder by ID, or we can actually call it by class. So when do we call a CSS folder by class? Sorry, when do we call a CSS folder by ID? Please write on the chat, guys. If you don't know, you can just say, go on, teacher. If you know, then just tell me. When do we call a CSS folder by ID? When do we call a CSS folder by ID? Brenda, Jessica, when do we call a CSS folder by ID? Okay, so we call a CSS folder by ID when we are actually selecting or choosing one one line element. But when you are calling something by class, you are making sure that it's more than a line element. It's more than one line. It's like can be three, it can be four, it can be five, it can be six, it can be as many as possible that you want to use the CSS for that class to actually like edit. So now we only use CSS when we are dealing with only one line. We only use ID when we're only dealing with one line element. So now I'm going to go to another stage whereby we use CSS selector by class. So how do we call a CSS selector by class? I'm going to write it on the chat. It's as simple as possible if you know how to write. Okay, thank you so much, Brenda. I can see only when you're calling styling by one element. Thank you so much. So so what's the difference between calling an ID and calling a element by class? What's the difference between calling a CSS element by class and calling by ID? So what's the difference between those two? And then can you give me, since we use hashtag for ID, what do we use for class when we want to want to style a page by class or a particular text or something by class? I'm waiting. Thank you so much, Brenda. Classes used to for multiple, yeah, we use the dot sign. So guys, if you know how to write the word full stop, I don't think there's anything that is limiting you to be able to style a CSS by class, because we use dot to actually style a CSS by class using the dot sign. And then this is what I'm going to do over here. I'm going to share my screen, and then I'm going to call a class here. Going to style this by class. If I want to use like a class in this whole test here, I'm just going to use div. So I'll just rather put this in a whole container so you understand what I'm trying to say. So I'll just use div from here. Div. Remember that I taught you how to use div in the first HTML class. Control C. Come over here. Just end it here. Wait, yeah. So I'll just end it here. Use another div here. So now that we have like the div, we're just going to style this by class. So put class and then we style Brenda. So now when we want to design that part, from this part to this part, we have to go to the CSS folder and just put dots. Instead of putting hashtag, now we're using dots. Then we'll put the word Brenda. Guys, remember whenever you're styling, you have to use the same name. If you are capitalizing the first one, you actually have to use it. And then let's say we want to change the color of the text. So we can say color. Let's change it to black. And then we can also test align also. Let's test align to the left. No, let's test align again to the center. Let's test align to center. And now to see what I am talking about, I stop sharing and I'll share that part of the screen again so that you can actually see what I'm talking about. So I just shared that part and yeah. So I actually forgot that the other part of the color of the text is black. So I decided to color it black again. So I'll just color that part of the text green. Let's color it green so and see how it goes. So now we've colored green and yeah, so you can see that everything that is in that container has been aligned to the center because we use div and we use the word class. So now class helps us anything that we name with the word Brenda. Let's assume now that I want to name this part of the class. I want to name this H1 stuff to Brenda. So I'll just go to the H2. I'll go there and put class and just put Brenda. Do you understand? So whenever I don't need to go back again and re-edit like putting a style in that place. When I scroll, H2 would become in the middle and then it would also have the same color text aligned to the center and have the color green because I have actually styled it once. So there's no need for like double styling. So this is what styling by class actually mean. When we are styling something, you don't need to repeatedly use the same styling sheet when you know that you want to use the same for as many css so as many stuff in the page as possible. So that's the difference between styling by class and styling by um ID. So another stuff again that I want to talk about is the universal selector. So guys, what is the universal selector? If you know what a universal selector is, I would kindly ask you to please write it in the chat. And what is the sign for universal selector, and when and how can we use a universal selector? If you know it, please write it in the chat so that the class can be more interactive. What is a universal selector, and when can and how can we use a universal selector in the class? We have 10 minutes going, guys, so let's do this. What is a universal selector and how can we use a universal selector in a class? Okay, so we'll just go ahead. So a universal selector is used to select elements on a page. So how do you use a universal selector? We use it when we put the asterisk sign. For those who don't know the asterisk sign, this is what an asterisk sign is. It is like the star over here. I'll just come over here and then this is an asterisk sign, and that's how to use a universal selector. So you can actually use it to style like all the elements on the page. So all the HTML elements on the page. So imagine that I want to change all the text color on the page to be blue, and I want all the text in the page to be in the middle. So I'll just go to the heading side. This is the head. I can even put it beneath here, and I just go to the body and put what do I use for the body now? How do I do this? Okay, so I'll just go here and do universal. Okay, just go here. Sorry, over here. Put the star sign. Open and close. Then just do test align to the right, and then color. No, I'll just do back. No, yeah, color should be blue. No, I can't use blue because I just put brown. So let's see how this affects the page. So guys, I'm going to stop sharing so I can share the page with you so you understand what I'm talking about. So this is it. So this is brown. So you can see that all the text has been aligned to the right side of the page and it's now color brown. So this is how to use a universal selector. It affects every single thing in the text aside from the one that is specifically done by ID or by class. By ID, sorry. So this is it. These ones have been done by ID, and you can see that these stuff are at the right side of the page. So I think today we've learned three different things: how to style CSS by ID, how to style CSS by class, how to style CSS using the universal selector, and how to the difference between color and background color. So that's the end of the class today. So guys, watch the video. I'm going to post the um, syllabus for CSS on the page, and so that the class can be up and going. Have a nice time, everyone, and see you guys tomorrow. Bye.